The story about me and this car actually starts out on a positive note. You see, I was a chronic alcoholic for most of my life. And in 2011, I had managed to go and get sober pretty much consistently for about 6 months. And during that time, I had managed to save up about $2,500 and decided that I was going to use the money from being sober to put into buying my dream car, which was an SS Monte Carlo. So I bought this SS Monte Carlo in January of 2012. And I believe I have a video clip from when I managed to get it into the garage.
Hi guys, this is the Monte Carlo that Lucky and I decided to pick up. It's a 1984 SS. It's a 305 with a 4-barrel TH200 transmission. It's got 175,000 on it, and we're going to be rebuilding it this year. Under the hood, it's a tad bit grungy, but we'll get her done.
And then I have another picture of it sitting out front at one point in February of 2012 when I managed to take it for a test drive after fixing the brakes. And then after that, I put it into the garage forever, basically. You see, in 2012, the end of it was when my son was born. And after that was when my marriage to my son's mom really started to have a downturn. I ended up back into drinking at that point. And I ended up in divorce in 2014 from my son's mom.
Not entirely sure what we got not going on down here. We've got a brake caliper over there with brand spanking new brake pads in it, it looks like. This brake drum is just surface rusted. It doesn't look as if it's bad. We've got what looks like brake pins down there. Got a random Gabriel box. And what looks as if I managed to put a spring in and a brand spanking new shock. What is this? Well, there's something in there. What is that? What size? What size? 7/16. Oh, no 10mm joke in this video. Oh, there's... Those look... Are those new? I can't tell. No, those are not new. Okay, so that must be the old ones from this side. And I'm also noticing several steering alignment shims all over the floor. I vaguely remember having that off in order to... Yes, I had that off because I did the bushings in it. So I'm going to bet all the steering alignment shims are missing out of this. I'm not sure if I still have one. There it is. See that? The springs were broken on both sides of this thing when I tore it apart. I do remember that. So I had to buy brand new springs. And they had literally shimmed all of this into the chassis in order to make up for the springs having like 3 inches shattered off. And they had both sides of the springs shattered off in there, so the thing clunked horrifically. Even just attempting to drive down my driveway, I can't imagine hitting anything at full throttle with this thing. I'm starting to have some memory come back. Hopefully we can find some more of my memory as we go. That tie rod there is actually loose, okay? And I was noticing the other tie rod is off also. So as we dig out further, we'll see what's going on. That's not factory. I don't remember that. And that doesn't look like my welds either. So that's cute. We'll have to take a look at that later. Alright, I'm going to set you guys up in the tripod and continue taking more off here.
I was drinking really heavily again during that time. I finally ended up divorced in December, early December of 2014. And part of that divorce was my child support agreement. And in my child support agreement, the agreement was made that every other holiday of Thanksgiving and Christmas would be spent with the other parent. And it was her turn for Christmas vacation to have John through the Christmas vacation. Ironically, my job would decide that that year, because Christmas landed in the middle of the week, to cancel the entire week of work. This meant that I was on my own as a chronic alcoholic. I thought I would reach out to friends, which, as an alcoholic, you don't really actually have friends. You have users. And I reached out to a bunch of bachelor friends of mine, and we set up that during that week that John was gone, during Christmas, since we all were alone bachelors, that we would all get together at my place, and we would drink, and we would hang out, and we would work on the Monte Carlo. We would work on a couple of other vehicles. And so I went out and I bought like 4 cases of beer. And I bought like 2 bottles of Jack Daniels, 2 bottles of 101 Wild Turkey. I believe I also bought a bottle of Jameson. And all 3 of the friends that were supposed to show up never showed up. Me, a chronic alcoholic, in a garage, with all of that alcohol, started tearing apart the Monte Carlo on a Sunday night. I don't remember anything. The only thing I remember is my father on Friday, 5 days later, beating the snot out of me with his cane after finding me passed out on the garage floor, having ripped apart the Monte Carlo, thoroughly blacked out on alcohol for 5 days straight. I drank a ton of coffee. I stopped and I shotgunned a Red Bull, and I went and I got my son, and I continued on with my life, never touching the Monte Carlo ever again. It has been a thing of shame sitting in my garage since 2014.
Trying not to have my voice crack. This is a really emotional project for me. These tires, or at least one of them, were actually donated by a friend who is no longer alive. He was a really nice gentleman, and he had heard about me talking about the Monte Carlo, and so he dropped these off to me. And I'm sorry to him that I never finished it while he was still with us. Well, we've got a whole bunch to sort out. I don't remember much. I know it drove in here, and I know that it had brakes, kind of, and I rebuilt the rear brakes, and I believe I was starting to rebuild the fronts. If we come down here, I bought a brand new spring at some point. I've got a new shock over there in that box, which must be what was going to replace that one. That's got a brand new set of brake pads in it. The lines look to be good, but I don't think I replaced those. I think they were already done when I bought it. Sway bar. Again, there's more welding / bolts. And this is definitely not something that I did. This is not how I weld up frame. So this must have been the previous owner. Obviously, we are missing a lot right here. And as I was kicking around, I remembered and discovered this pile that's over here in the corner. So this looks to be the bottom, and it looks as if I pressed in bushings. We've got an energy suspension kit here that seems to match up with more bushing type stuff. And what is this? More ball joint stuff. Oh, there we go. There's a hub, which means the other side of this. Yep, there's... Okay, so there's the hub. There's the brakes with backer. That must be the one from the other side. So, okay. So we've got... I got no idea what I did while I was intoxicated, but we can at least rebuild it with what we got. There's another tire down here. I had taped it off because, remember, this was a literal chicken barn find. So anywhere that the chickens could sit on the edges is rusted out. This was all covered in chicken. And there's a giant hole here, and that's because somebody installed a moonroof incorrectly. My memory is coming back on that. The moonroof was installed incorrectly. The moonroof was supposed to be further forward, but instead they put it further back, which is why they sliced through the supports for the roof, and then the roof caved, and it caused the moonroof to leak in the back. And that's also why the lights are chopped up to back there. And we will dig into the interior in a future video. I did notice that the key is in it. I'm wondering if the horn had something wrong with it, because I'm noticing the horn is here and not down where it's supposed to be, but yet I can get to where it was supposed to be, so we're going to have to see if the horn has something wrong with it. I don't know what's up with that. I did that, I'm sure, but I don't know what's up with it. And the back of the car is buried in a whole bunch of other stuff, and whatever was holding the car up in the rear has since collapsed.
So we're going to work on that in a future video. As it is right now, I'm emotionally drained. This has been a very rough down memory lane for me, but I've brought you guys along. I also noticed these while I was cleaning this up. This is a solenoid, and it's not a Ford solenoid. So I'm wondering if I thought it had solenoid problems. And this fuel filter does not seem to match anything else that I have around. So I'm wondering whether I had planned on doing the fuel filter or whether I had a reason to do the fuel filter. I can tell from records that I bought all new brake pads for the rear and a spring kit for the rear. So we're gonna have to find out whether I actually did that or not. Right here you can see where more chickenitis ate it. And more chickenitis ate it. I don't know where the trim that goes in here is. Apparently in my drunken stupor I ripped out all of that. I do seem to have this trim, because under there, I seem to have a tote with some trim pieces in it. And over here, I have some stuff for the rear, it looks like. So we're going to have to see what's there. Obviously, we've got a front bumper buried in here. We've got a rear bumper cover buried in here. And I'm going to close out the video with this is the roof off of the last car my father ever drove. And we're going to see if we can graft it into this car. Because the reason I bought this car is because I learned to drive in my dad's 1983 SS Monte Carlo. And I wanted one. And when I had the chance to get this one, I went for it. Thank you everybody for supporting me in this very emotional video. We're going to keep working on this. It's getting easier the more I get it dug out. I'm starting to get a little more confident about talking about things. We're going to keep going.